Hello everyone, it's Anton on the go here, and I'm currently at Pearson International Airport in Toronto, waiting to board my next flight on my next vacation for the summer. And welcome as I literally journey across the globe in search for the most beloved woman in history. She came to fame as a Jewish teenage mother and is revered not only by Catholics, but also by Muslims, Orthodox, and different Protestant denominations. As the woman who nursed the Son of God, she was also the one who prompted him to perform the first miracle when the wedding guests were running out of wine. She has also been featured in many magazines such as Time, and on the December 2015 issue of National Geographic, award-winning writer Maureen Orth and photographer Diana Markosian teamed up together to write a cover story for this most beloved woman, whom they call as the most powerful woman in the world. So we're looking at the original pop star here, the one who said "Let It Be" before the Beatles wrote their hit song. She's inspired more literature, art, and music than any other hundreds of women combined in history. And even though it's been a little over 2,000 years, she's more alive than ever today. So this woman is no other than the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Mother of God, and our Mother. So join me now as I travel across Egypt, France, and Japan in this first season as I go to some of the many places where the Blessed Virgin has touched the lives of many, whether from the domes of a church, to a hidden Parisian street where she fashioned a medal, to a wooden statue in northern Japan, or even through some of the most devastating and darkest moments in history. So join me as I go in search for the Virgin Mary. From its picturesque scenery and vibrant history, France was, once upon a time, referred by the Catholic Church as its staunchest defender, even coining the term as the eldest daughter of the faith and the eldest daughter of Mary. France has been known in the medieval ages to build magnificent basilicas in honor of Our Lady and has raised up many powerful saints throughout the ages. Yet, in the last 3 centuries, France has turned its back to the faith and challenged its doctrines through individualism, skepticism, and reason. When the French Revolution erupted in 1789, the revolutionary authorities suppressed the church, seized its property, and persecuted thousands upon thousands of the clergy. And it shouldn't be a surprise as to why it was to this particular nation that Our Lady chose to appear in a series of what is usually referred to as her modern-day apparitions. Known as the City of Light, France's capital, Paris, has always been considered, among others, an alpha global city, and is usually called one of the most sophisticated centers of the world. The megatropolis has always been a leading city in almost all aspects of culture, from art, cuisine, winemaking, politics, music, literature, fashion, and even sports.
Thus, it somehow seems dissonant in today's contemporary society, even to the 21st century Catholic, that this city was chosen to be the site of the first modern-day Marian apparition. Hidden among the city's many busy avenues is Rue du Bac Street. Here stands the mother house of the Daughters of Charity and the famous chapel where Our Lady appeared to a simple and humble nun, Catherine Labouré.
Good morning, everyone. It's Anton on the go here. So I left Cairo and I'm currently now in the beautiful city of Paris. I have a 23-hour layover here in this very beautiful and one of the most sophisticated cities in the world. And I am currently at the Chapel of Rue du Bac, or the Miraculous Medal Chapel. So for today's episode of In Search of the Virgin Mary, we will be talking about one such story, one of the most famous Marian stories of all time. And it pertains to a medal. Yes, a medal. So it's very tiny, barely an inch long and half an inch wide. There's nothing really elaborate or even stunning about this medal, to be honest, to be quite frank. It's not even made out of silver or gold. So now we might ask ourselves, how can something so small and simple and even looking insignificant be such a momentous force in the world? But yet it is. So this devotion I'm pertaining to is the devotion to Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal. So this devotion played a significant role in the history of the Church and even helped shape the current landscape of Marian devotion in the world. Hello everyone, so I'm here at the Louvre with my friend Rudy. Hi Rudy. So I met Rudy here in Paris a year ago from another friend that I met in World Youth Day. His name is Damien, so shout out to Damien if you are watching this right here. So to give context, since we are in Paris, it's important to know the background, especially for the Marian apparitions in Rue du Bac, to know the context of what happened here. So Rudy knows a lot of history. So Rudy, I want to ask you the question. Please explain the French Revolution and how did that affect the Catholic Church, and how is the faith now in France as well?
So here you can see we are in the Louvre Palace, which used to be the palace of the kings until Louis XIV, so until the 1600s. And once he grew up, he decided to move the palace from here to another area outside of Paris, which is known as Versailles. 200 years after Louis XIV, so we're in 1789, Louis XVI was the king in Versailles as well, and the revolution started because of economic problem. France was also funding the American Revolution and was facing economic problem here in Europe. So the whole situation collapsed, and the revolutionaries actually went to Versailles to take the king and the queen and brought them here. Actually, but now there's nothing over behind, because there used to be a palace called Palais des Tuileries. They put the king in there and then they took the palace, they attacked the palace, and now it's completely gone because it has been destroyed. And then actually they voted to behead the king and to put an end to the monarchy and start a republic. And this is the moment where the church and the political power stopped working together, because the republic was not Catholic and anti-Catholic. So before the whole country was Catholic, and the politicians as well, and after the revolution they were more anti-Catholic. So now for the last 200 years the republic and the political power have put a distance between them and the church, and this has started, which means the culture remains Christian and Catholic, but less and less people are practicing Catholics. Now practicing Catholics is maybe 1%.
In all of France?
In all of France, yes. So it creates a weird environment where all the culture and the monuments and the thing is very Christian and Catholic and linked with the monarchy, but now the political system is a republic and doesn't recognize any faith actually. But the cultural heritage is still here, but the religious practice is
almost
vanishing.
non-existent anymore.
The recipient of the heavenly visions was a 24-year-old novice, Catherine Labouré. She was born on May 2nd, 1806, in a village in Burgundy, France, and affectionately called Zoe. She was the ninth of 11 children to Pierre Labouré and Louise Madeleine, and when Catherine was 9 years old, her mother died, and during the funeral, the young Zoe took a statue of the Blessed Mother and whispered, "Now, dear Blessed Mother, you will be my mother." Desiring to become a nun, Catherine entered the Daughters of Charity in April of 1830 and began her novitiate at the Rue du Bac convent. And it is right here at this very place where our story begins on the night of July 18, 1830. At 11:30 p.m., a beautiful child dressed in white and emanating heavenly light awakened 24-year-old Catherine Labouré from her sleep. Believing it to be her guardian angel, Catherine followed him to the chapel after he told her that the Blessed Virgin had called for her. Arriving in the chapel, all the candles were lit as if for midnight mass. Catherine then heard what she described later on as the sound of rustling silk and saw a beautiful lady suddenly appear and sat down on the chair used by the director of the community. Filled with unspeakable joy, Catherine flung herself onto the lady's feet and placed her hands on Mary's lap. She then gazed at her sweet eyes, and Catherine would later write that this was the sweetest moment of her life. Mary then began to speak to Catherine.
My child, the good God wishes to entrust you with a mission. You will be contradicted, but do not fear. You will have the grace to do what is necessary. Tell your spiritual director all that passes within you.
Then a look of deep pain came across Mary's face.
The times are now evil in France and in the world. The time will arrive when great dangers will come and people will think all is lost. The cross will be trampled upon and be held in contempt. The streets will run with blood, and the whole world will be plunged into sadness. But come to the foot of the altar. There, graces great and small will be showered on all those who ask for them with confidence and fervor. Do not be afraid. Tell them not to be afraid. The protection of God shall be ever present in a special way. I myself shall be with you, and I have my eyes upon you. I will grant you many graces.
After the vision, Catherine wasn't able to sleep that night, but she understood that many of the events which Our Lady had told her would take place within her lifetime. She told of these things to her confessor, Father Aladel, who was initially very skeptical. But in just a week's time, the Blessed Mother's harrowing warning had come true when the July Revolution erupted. The attempts of Charles X to restore the Bourbon absolutism and monarchy was met with severe violence and toppled the king from his throne. The church once again was the target of the mob's wrath.
The first apparition of Mary to Saint Catherine Labouré in Rue du Bac was July of 1830, and there was also a very significant historical period that happened at that time, and Rudy here will share it with us. They call this the Second French Revolution, right?
They
Of
call
18
it the July Revolution.
the July Revolution.
Because once the historical monarchy had collapsed, a republic was established, the First Republic collapsed into an empire, the First Empire. The First Empire collapsed at Waterloo in 1815 when Napoleon was defeated by the English and the Prussians. Then they put a new king in France to re-establish the monarchy so that all the countries in Europe would be monarchies. But that king was a part of the family of the Louis XVI that was beheaded.
Yes.
And again, there was multiple mini revolution and coup d'etat and all of this. And in 1830, the king at the time was Charles X. And he was part of the Bourbon family, so all the royal family. He faced a revolution on the streets of Paris, which is called the July Revolution.
The July Revolution.
And he was deposed by Republicans, and also another noble who became king, Louis Philippe, but he was more of a liberal king. And this started a new monarchy, but a very liberal monarchy. And that liberal monarchy also collapsed into and then turned into a republic. So there were multiple clashes between people who wanted a monarchy, people who wanted an empire, and people who wanted
it was going back and forth.
And in this context of political instability, every 5 or 10 years, where France was facing severe economic collapse because of all the wars with the outsiders as well, and internal wars. In this context, the Virgin Mary appeared in many places in France, and appeared also here in Paris, where a disease, a typhus, started spreading.
Yeah, the typhus started spreading. The church suffered through that period, and as we would see, later through Mother Mary's prophecies in Rue du Bac, she told Saint Catherine Labouré, the streets are gonna run with blood and the cross will be trampled upon again, and that's exactly what happened.
On November 27, 1830, the Blessed Virgin appeared again to Catherine in the chapel. This time, it was at 5:30 p.m. during meditation with the community. While Catherine was deep in prayer, she heard the same rustle of silk as she did in July, and upon opening her eyes, she saw the Blessed Virgin clothed in dazzling white. She was standing on a globe, one foot crushing the head of a serpent, which was also on top of the globe. In her hands, she held a golden ball with a golden cross surmounted on it, and this represented the world. It seemed Our Lady was offering this to God because she was looking towards heaven. On her fingers were many rings, which were filled with jewels and precious stones, from which shining rays of light descended. Our Lady then said to Sister Catherine,
My child, this ball which you see is the world, including France, and each person individually in particular. I am praying for it and for everyone in the world. The rays which fall on this ball are the graces which I give to those who ask for them. But there are no rays from some of the stones, for many people fail to receive graces because they neglect to ask for them.
An oval frame then formed around the apparition, and Catherine saw that the small ball in Our Lady's hands had vanished, and she lowered her arms outstretched, and the rays glittered and glistened more brilliantly than before. Around her queenly head appeared the luminous letters of the words in a semicircle, O Mary conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee. Catherine then heard the voice saying,
Have a medal made according to this model. For those who wear it with confidence, there will be abundant graces. They should especially wear it around the neck. Great graces will be given to those who wear it with confidence.
Finally, the image turned and Catherine saw the reverse side of the medal, the letter M surmounted with a little cross and 2 hearts. one crowned with thorns and the other pierced with a sword below. After some time, according to Catherine, the vision vanished like a flame of a candle that is blown out. Our Lady would reappear in this way to Catherine in several other occasions, and after the last time, the Blessed Virgin reassured Catherine that she would still hear her voice. When Our Lady would reappear to Catherine, urging her to have the medal struck, the young sister always went to her confessor, Father Aladel, who placed very little credence to her claim and was also still very skeptical. Mary had then asked Catherine why the medal hadn't been made yet. Catherine said that her confessor didn't believe her and begged Mary to choose someone else, as did Saint Juan Diego, the visionary of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico City. The young novice then heard Mary's voice say,
Never mind and do not worry. A day will come when Father Aladel will do what I wish. He is my servant, and he would fear to displease me.
This broke the ice for Father Aladel, for he realized that Catherine didn't have the creative genius for telling such a story, and he believed her. He then worked with her to carry out Mary's instructions. Father Aladel didn't wish to disobey Our Lady, but at the same time, he didn't feel he had the authority to carry out such a task. With the encouragement and insistence from Catherine, Father Aladel consulted the Archbishop of the time, Monsignor de Calais, who found that the visions did not contain anything contradictory to the faith, and authorized that the medal be struck. In 1832, 2 years after Our Lady made her request, the first 2,000 medals were made, and Father Aladel preached about its significance. Around this time, Catherine had already received her habit and insisted that her identity as the privileged visionary be kept a secret, to the point where even the nuns in the convent didn't know that Catherine herself was the favored seer. She kept this secret for 46 years, right until her death. Right from the very beginning of its propagation and distribution, reports of cures and miracles of all sorts, big and small, were being reported by those who wore the medal. People lined up and flooded the convent of the Sisters of Charity because the first supply of medals vanished rapidly. It has to be noted that the medal bore the words as specified by Our Lady, O Mary conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee. These words point to the Blessed Virgin's Immaculate Conception, a doctrine which at the time yet in 1830 had not yet been made a dogma. It was only 24 years later, in 1854, where Pope Pius IX officially declared this church teaching an article of faith. Originally and initially called the Medal of the Immaculate Conception, the popular demand and request for the medals became so great that orders were already starting to pour outside from France, and also because of the many miracles attributed to the medal. It soon lost its original name and became what we know it today as the Miraculous Medal. In 1836, a canonical inquiry concluded that the apparitions, messages, and the wonders worked by the medal of the Blessed Virgin were of supernatural origin. Archbishop de Calais was overjoyed by the outcome of the devotion, that it was because of his efforts that the invocation, Queen conceived without original sin, was inserted in the Litany of Loreto. It is said that no such sacramental in the Catholic Church has created such an impact in history since the Rosary routed the Albigens and Turks, and none had ever been spread in such profound, incredible numbers in a span of just a few years. By December of 1836, it is said that 11 million medals were produced, that engravers and firms were struggling to keep up with the great demand. Many miracles continued to be reported, and it was said that it was most effective in seemingly impossible situations, such as cures of the hopelessly incurable and conversions of the worst enemies of the Church. One such miracle occurred in 1842 in Rome, Italy, that brought the Miraculous Medal to the attention of the world outside of France and the Catholic Church. This miracle caused such a stir that the Vatican itself recognized the medal. This miracle was the conversion of Alphonse Ratisbonne, a 28-year-old Jewish agnostic who had a seething hatred for the Catholic Church. Truly a man of the world, he mocked anything that was spiritual, particularly if it had to do with the Catholic faith. His hatred for Catholicism only grew after his brother had converted and became a priest. While visiting Rome by chance, an acquaintance of Alphonse had dared him to wear the Miraculous Medal and recite the Memorare. Complying with the request, Ratisbonne wore the medal out of mockery to show that all of this devotion was simply superstition. A few days later, on January 20th, 1842, while waiting for a friend in the side chapel of Sant Andrea del Frate Church, Alphonse was the recipient of a vision of the Blessed Virgin Mary. According to Ratisbonne, she appeared exactly as she did on the Miraculous Medal, and while she didn't say anything, Alphonse immediately felt the love and forgiveness of the Virgin Mary and understood that the Catholic faith was his true home. He particularly noted the face of the Blessed Virgin and her hands that expressed all the secrets of divine pity. His friend returned to find him on his knees, with tears streaming down his face. Alphonse was immediately converted and asked to speak to a priest, and a few days later, he was baptized and entered the Jesuits to become a priest. Ratisbonne added the name Marie to his name and founded a congregation for the evangelization of Jews in the Holy Land. Alphonse was so grateful for such a gift that he went to the Rue du Bac Chapel in Paris and inquired to speak to the sister who saw the Blessed Virgin. However, the only problem was that none of the sisters knew who the visionary was. The sudden conversion of Marie Alphonse Ratisbonne caused a sensation among the affluent European circles that the Vatican in Rome immediately recognized this conversion as a supernatural miracle attributed to the Miraculous Medal. Sister Catherine Labouré lived the rest of her life in quiet and humble service to others. She passed away on December 31, 1876, prophesying that she would never see the year 1877. She was canonized as a saint in 1947, and her body remains fully incorrupt and is laid to rest in the Rue du Bac Chapel in Paris. It is said that the hands of Saint Catherine Labouré remain the most beautiful, as it was precisely those hands which rested on the Blessed Virgin's lap. Many people have wondered why Our Lady would give this powerful sacramental and unveil her peace plan for the world in a narrow and hidden Parisian street. Remember, in 1830, France was in great upheaval, and we know that during this time the church was being persecuted and the streets of Paris were ripe for violence. Our Lady has never been known to back down from battle, and so it makes sense for her to begin her strategy also in the streets of Paris. The 19th century onwards, until today, is an era which has tried to dismiss the existence of God and the significance of the Church. Mary began her battle against the modern world here in the streets of Paris in 1830. This chapel of the Miraculous Medal might just be the most important shrine and the center for Marian devotion in modern history, because this was the place where Our Lady herself squared off with Satan and began her final battle against him. All that you see with what is going on in the world today began right here when Mary appeared to Saint Catherine. This was the beginning and the opening of the Marian age. All of Mary's apparitions, from La Salette, Lourdes, Fatima, Borang, Bano, Zaitun in Egypt, Akita in Japan, to name a few, began right here in Rue du Bac,
when she launched her campaign against Satan. Mary's not beyond using people like you and me as recruits to bring her message of love to the modern world, only if we are receptive and humble enough to go into her loving arms. So as I walk here now in the Parisian streets, I can't help but think, wow, Mother Mary made this medal just for me, and you, of course. So she was already thinking about us in particular when she was speaking to Catherine that night, that first night in July of 1830. So when she first appeared to St. Catherine, I'd also like to imagine that she just wasn't having a heart-to-heart personal conversation with Catherine, but she was also having that very conversation with you, right? How typical is it really for Mother Mary? It's very like her. She invites you to her shrine here. It's her home filled with her gentle presence. So we are invited now to put all our troubles, big or small, and let her love and peace permeate your soul. Commit yourself to wear the medal and try to become so much like her. Because, Mary is calling all the time. As we end this vlog, let's say a prayer to Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal.
O Virgin Mother of God, Mary Immaculate, we dedicate and consecrate ourselves to you under the title of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal. May this medal be for each one of us a sure sign of your affection for us and a constant reminder of our duties toward you. Ever while wearing it, may we be blessed by your loving protection and preserved in the grace of your Son. O most powerful Virgin, Mother of our Savior, keep us close to you every moment of our lives. Obtain for us, your children, the grace of a happy death, so that, in union with you, we may enjoy the bliss of heaven forever. Amen.